everything's more of an under a microscope.
But if you're 40 and you have no kids, what was your moral compass before to get to business? Just be the best.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes to be the best, that means you got to cut people down.
Correct.
And in the longevity of community, that is not always the most beneficial. Naked, outside, strapped to a pole while the neighbors are having a barbecue.
That was a couple weeks
bro.
ago.
I told Regina to stop.
You did that to yourself.
I was young. I was dumb. I'm happy I had him because he made me
still dumb.
grow. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I wanted to touch base. Love you. Good to see you. How was your day? It was good.
welcome to the Cam and Joe Show. My name is Joe Steele with my good friend Cameron. What's up, my man?
What's up, big dog? Happy Friday, man.
Yeah, dude. So we're going to be talking about parenting styles today. If you're curious and you're like, what's going on? Because my parents did different things than I did, and then my...
Are you about to admit something? My parents. Here you go, Joe. We're gonna jump right in.
Show me on the anatomically correct doll where they beat you. Oh.
Stop it.
No, but ultimately, you probably noticed the grandparents treat their kids different.
Yep.
Like grandparenting. I see my parents with my kids, and I'm like, you never did that for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's different. They're my grandkids.
Yeah, let me load them full of sugar, shake them up. All right, later. Like,
it's time for bed, and you're like, what?
Yep.
So ultimately, yeah, I
true.
found a really cool thing on parents.com, and it goes through generational styles, and it's a doctor. She literally did case studies looking into and going, hey, here's the different ways we do this. Yeah, I just think there's not a lot of info on parenting. And when you do start kind of thinking about it, there's some interesting stuff in here I think you're really going to get a kick out of. But you're always critique yourself. Now with social media, you're looking at other people critiquing you. Now, if you post a picture of your kid and somebody says, I didn't like that, now you're getting reported by a report of a flag. And so you're inviting everybody into your home, which isn't always a good thing, but it creates an extra amount of stress, which means everything's different.
And when you start to have kids, you realize that while there's information out there on how to parent, you'll never know how to parent until you parent.
Have you had any phrases that you've said that you're like, I never, ever, ever thought I would say this phrase?
I've got a stew on that one. One will come to me, probably a good one too. There's always things that you end up saying a lot. All right,
I'll throw out one right now. Stop sniffing your brother.
Sniffing?
I never
You've
thought.
got a sniffer.
Well, I got a sniffer. He's attracted to smells, but he also is he senses. He wants to see it, touch it, feel it, type of thing. And if he likes something, he's like, so we got a new shampoo.
Is this the Basset Hound or is this your son? Potentially
both.
Both of them.
Both.
Those ski years.
The L is in both. So he was over and he's just like,
that's awesome.
And I was just like, what are you doing? He goes, you smell good. I was like, stop sniffing me. And then he goes over and he's like, oh, he starts smelling his brother. He's like, you smell good. I was like, did you have a cold?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you're smelling things.
You use some Afrin and now you're like you're all opened up, or
no?
What
I don't know what the day was, but he just decided to smell everything. So we ended up we ended up going to like a store that had a bunch of flowers, and he started smelling all the flowers. So he said, tell me the smell difference. I was like, oh, okay. And then he got overstimulated with that, and he's like, I don't want to sniff anything anymore. Perfect.
My olfactory senses are fried right now.
Yeah, thanks for murdering them.
From a parental standpoint, yes. Like I'm thinking back to before we had Beckham.
Yeah.
Before we had Beckham, there were like, in so many movies do a great job of making fun of this. One of the movies is Knocked Up. So.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Hilarious. I'm like, should I mention it? Yes, I will.
Yeah, go for it.
But those kind of book, like you'll flip through it, and then you read a chapter or two about parenting, and then you flip to the back, look up the author, and realize that the author has never been married and never had children.
Yeah, that is.
So then you're like,
yeah, advice.
Yeah. And in the same that, I mean, there's, and don't get me wrong,
sure,
some of the best coaches in the NBA
were never
played in the NBA, or were never even athletes,
sure.
right? So you don't always have to say, well, you've never done it, so you wouldn't know. That would be a fallacy, right?
Sure.
Some of the best marriage family therapists are women that have never been married.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't just instantly default to that, but there is just so much raw, real life learning by the seat of your pants that happens when you parent. That happens when you parent.
Yeah.
And you have your first, and you think you're okay. We know what we're doing. We had one.
I'm happy you thought
And
that.
then, oh man, and then you have another one, and then they're just like completely wired differently, and you're like,
did I mess up?
What?
What happened?
Oh, buddy.
Was there a positive, negative charge? Something happened? Did you stick a fork in an outlet?
Truly. And my Maddie is 3 now, but Maddie, I'm sure, will watch this one day and look back and be like, was Dad talking shit or what? But no, they're just she'll throat punch right now. She will. But there are things and idiosyncrasies and just things that Beckham will do that Maddie will never do, and things that Maddie will do that just kind of makes Hannah and I scratch our chins.
Like how?
And like they've been raised the same way, same house, same food. Like
hold on, time out. Same parents, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
for the most part. Same parenting. I'm like, same parenting style. What changed? And then you realize that kids are different.
Yeah.
And in the same way that somebody can have twins and they grow up and just go in completely different
Absolutely,
paths.
I've seen
so
it.
you can think that you know what you're doing on kid number 1. But yeah, the best way to parent is to parent and figure it out. And by the grace of God, you do figure it out.
Yes.
And you hope and pray that you're doing it as good and God-fearing as you can. But oh my gosh, there has never been equally a harder thing.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yet a more beneficial,
rewarding,
beautiful, rewarding thing. Because just to show 2 opposite ends of the spectrum, Maddie was having a total meltdown before bed after we read the 2 books and light was about to go off. She does this back arching, oh my God, she's possessed, call a priest, yeah. And you're just like, what's happening? Yet this morning I wake up, and at some point in the night she crawled into our bed, and I wake up this morning and she's right behind me, and I wake up with these itty bitty little 3-year-old hands scratching my back, and I turn around and look at her and she says, Daddy scratchers, Daddy scratchers.
So
and
cute.
I'm just like, and I just melt all over again. So
yeah.
There are the 2 absolute ends of the spectrum. Do you know what you're doing? No.
No.
You just sacrifice knowing, and you say, God, allow me to do as best as I can.
100%.
Right? Let you lead the way. Let's figure this thing out.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is you're afraid that you're going to screw up your kids. Okay, I'm going to just if you're afraid you're going to screw up your kids, I don't know how to tell you this. You're going to.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's going to be in some way you didn't even know. I tell my mom something.
Absolutely.
She's like, I did that? I was like, yeah. She goes,
buddy,
that bothered you?
Dude.
3 older brothers, and I'm not going to crap on any of them, but I've been locked in chests. I've been locked in closets, in trunks of cars, spinning Brodies, naked outside, strapped to a pole while the neighbors were having a barbecue.
That was a couple weeks
bro.
ago.
I told Regina to stop.
You did that to yourself.
I really wanted the attention, okay? No, but I'm saying that stuff didn't bother me though.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of tight places. If somebody grab my arms, I'd be like, all right, and I just kind of go with it. It's whatever.
Gosh.
But there's other I'm like, stop.
Stop, jeez.
No, but that stuff doesn't bother me. It wasn't the extreme things. There were moments when I realized, oh, everyone's out of the house. I'm by myself. I don't like this. Thing I fought with more was isolation.
Yeah.
Not because you're the youngest. You're used to all the action.
Yeah.
That got me more than all of the other.
Absolutely.
Someone would call it, really, abuse, but it's brotherly, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Sure.
But that was different, right? And so there were no pictures of that. My brothers weren't stupid enough to take pictures and post it.
And we
all
grew
that
up
stuff.
in an era where no one was, you just kind of know and you hear about it.
And you're like, oh, that's weird. And then you go back to eating your food. Well, hopefully that doesn't mess them up.
Yeah. Yeah, growing up, and I saw this on Instagram the other day, is the kids that grew up in the 90s, like we did, was the last era of get outside.
Yeah.
Go ride your bikes and hang out and play with your friends.
Yep.
And then when the street lights come on, that's when it's like, all right, have a good night, guys. And you book it home.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
That was us. The suburban madness of growing up in the 90s.
Absolutely.
And like I'm thinking back to just those times were like just golden years.
Oh my gosh.
And then you wonder, like, did my parents know where I was? But then you look back, you're like, okay, yeah, my folks looking back, they did a good job of always
Keeping tabs.
knowing my friends' parents really well.
Sure.
Right.
Well, that's the hardest.
And now I see the benefit of that.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because as soon as and it's been awesome raising our kids and making friends with my son's friends' parents.
Yes.
Right? We've developed incredible new friendships and relationships with this whole crew that I was able to coach T-ball for last year. And now Beckham has this like awesome little core of 4 and 5 year old buddies. It's the coolest thing ever. And now I'm really good friends with all their
That's
dads
amazing.
and Hannah with the moms. But looking at it now, it's hard to separate what I experienced growing up and my experience with my parents, and then in retrospect with Hannah and I and our kids. Because Hannah, and I'm an overthinker, I think, to an extent. Hannah's absolutely an overthinker.
I'm an overthinker, I think.
I'm an overthinker, I believe. I do. There's that's just how it is.
No, I get it.
Hannah is absolutely an overthinker, and I love her for it. But there are days where she's like,
You both start thinking too much.
Yeah. No, truly. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, are we doing everything right? And I'm like, no. and that's okay.
Yeah.
Truly. Like you have to parenting is wild, man.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be present. So the hardest thing about my life is raising kids. The best thing about my life is raising kids. When you're in it, you're in it. You just have to force yourself to be as actively present as you can be.
You just said something that was absolutely amazing. For once. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I was due.
You're like,
I'm
what?
30,
You're like,
I'm
man.
35. I was due.
No. So what was interesting, and I just thought about this. It's like when you're kids, you can socialize with anybody, right? You can be like, hey, you're my friend. Hey, we're friends now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And you're like, I guess we're playing, right?
Yep.
But it's funny because as adults, you kind of, after high school, when you're like, we're going to be best friends forever. We're never going to stop talking to each other. 2 weeks later, I don't even know who that person is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's genuinely where it's at.
Yeah.
And then you hit college, and then you have some friends, and then you get married, and then you separate. And then you barely see that person. You barely talk to them. Now it's just you and your spouse, and your circles are separated.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to any type of a community thing, you're not doing any religious activities, you're kind of isolated.
Absolutely.
When you have a kid, the kid forces you to socialize again.
It's true.
And the kid is not just socializing.
They bring you back into the loop.
They're not socializing for their benefit. They're actually socializing for your benefit. So you have to talk to another parent and go, oh, I guess I want to know what they're talking about. I think it's like
I love it.
It's awesome.
There's
I've never thought of it that way.
Now I'm thinking of an episode of Blue. Everything in my life now relates to an episode of Bluey. Damn you, Bluey. We're like slowly working our way. I think we're on like season 3, episode like 11 now. And usually like every other day we'll go an episode of Bluey and then 2 books or just 2 books before bed.
Sure,
We've,
yeah.
Like slowly gone through it.
Yeah.
And there's some episodes where like I'll look over at Hannah at the end of the episode and she's crying and I'm crying. I'm like, what? Beckham looks at me just like, Dad, what?
It's just a cartoon, bro. Chill.
What's wrong? But there's a certain episode of Bluey. Somebody that's watching this got to chime in and let me know the name of the episode. That Bluey and her little sister, Bingo, if you know the show.
Absolutely.
They drag their dad, Bandit, to the park, and they're playing. And then on day 1 where they're playing, there's another kid's dad and Bluey's dad just kind of look at each other. Hey, mate. Hey, mate.
Yeah.
And then like the next day, they're like chatting. And then by the next day, the dads are looking forward to going to the park so they can play.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like by the 4th and 5th day, one of the dads shows up with the kid, and the other dad and the other kid aren't there. And the kid isn't super bummed because they're at the park.
Yeah.
But the dad is like
oh man,
super down about it. And their wives are like, what's wrong? Like, I went to the park, but my friend wasn't there.
That's
and the
exactly it.
kids have no idea. So
Yeah.
The idea of our kids bring us back into the fold, so true. Absolutely.
All right, so let's take a look. It says what your generation style or generation says about your parenting style. So this one's gonna hit Millennial, Gen X, Gen Z.
What are we? We're Millennial.
We're Millennial.
I hate that term, but
hey, stop being such a Millennial by hating the term Millennial.
Sorry.
So Generation X,
overthinking.
born 1965 to 1980. Okay,
That's what?
Generation X is born
X.
1965 to 1980.
Yep.
Okay.
Gen Xers.
So let's see. According to Holly Schiff, a PsycD, a licensed clinical psychologist, Gen Xers raised largely by the boomers famously use the helicopter parenting style. They like to get and give advice about parenting and always learn about how to be a better parent, she explains. Gen X parents like to volunteer and be very involved in their children's development, including being very involved in their child's school. Okay?
I see that.
Right? And so...
But we weren't raised by Gen Xers. We were raised by boomers.
Correct. Well, yeah. And that's the thing. Gen X would be my brothers are Gen X. My parents are boomers. So we're in that weird.
Yeah.
We are an oddity, my friend.
Who are we?
Ooh, I really want to know.
We have no Great War, no Great Depression. What movie? Our Great War is a spiritual war.
I don't know.
Our Great Depression is our lives.
You're gonna have to.
Fight Club.
Oh, bro.
Smack.
It's been so long since I did watch Hot Fuzz the other day, so that should help redeem me a little bit.
A little bit.
Okay, so let's see. It says Gen X was the first generation to move away from their authoritarian discipline style and lean toward learning what was best ways to parent. Theories are that this generation became so interested in learning more about parenting in response to their lack of experience, sufficient support as children themselves. They're incredibly interested in encouraging individual choice while trying to remain engaged as a parent. It's 100% true.
Yeah.
They're asking the right questions. They're kind of going about it. I mean, think about on technology, because I like to compare it to tech. That was computers were starting. There was more information was available out there. More people were able to gather information quicker.
Yeah.
Because think about it. When you would do a poll before and you're like, 10,000 people were polled. Well, how did they do that before? 100 people sitting in this room or somebody sitting at a desk. Would you want to take a poll?
Correct.
Hey, would you like to take a poll?
Correct.
Right? And then you're like, I don't want to take a poll. Right? So now it's a lot easier to get that information, which I think is beneficial. So
it is.
I do see that, the authoritarian style. But
because those I mean, you think of the generations that were raised by individuals that fought through World War II.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they are going to be hardened by their upbringing.
Yep.
And there's a lot of, call it like it is, generational trauma that's passed on from those individuals who had that much of a harder upbringing growing up.
Absolutely, man.
Right? Like I'm thinking of oh man. Then this isn't
Sure.
It's just one of those stories that you kind of like, you almost wish you didn't know.
Sure.
But my dad's dad, so my grandpa, before he passed away, he told my dad, Michael, I love you. Okay?
Yeah.
They were able to, in my grandpa's last days in their time together.
Sure.
But while that story's great, I learned later from my dad that he did not hear Michael, I love you from his father for like 50 some odd years of his life. Like he remembered hearing it when he was very young.
Yeah, and then stopped.
Completely.
Wow.
So you're like, man, and then so that's that individual raised my dad. And then you look back and you think of your own parents' inefficiencies or delinquencies or things that they did and didn't do.
Absolutely.
And then you realize, well, hold on, can I fault them? Because now I understand the nature of what they were raised by.
Absolutely.
And then you have to, in turn, look at yourself and say, I was raised by someone who experienced this, who was raised by someone who parented like this.
Absolutely.
And I mean, how much do we all know about our great-great-grandfather or great-grandfather? I mean, maybe a little, maybe his name or what he did for work.
Yeah, exactly.
But do we know
who?
Parental style?
No, not at all.
No,
not
right?
at all. There was no information.
So all you can do is do your absolute best to not follow in a negative footstep and do your absolute best to, be present and in love with them.
Well, and I think that when we look back at history, the good times don't always shine as much as the bad times.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? We always lean more towards the negative. And so
look at the news.
If you're going to go great-great-grandpa, you're going to only have heard from, your grandma, oh man, he was the worst. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That's not always the case. There had to have been some love because you were made.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to be real, right? Or at least some lust. There had to have been some type
had to have been something.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100% on that. Millennials, 1981 to 1996, boom.
Boom, baby.
Okay.
19, what is it? 81.
81 to 96.
Okay, so myself and both of my older brothers were all millennials. Michael's 81, Chris is 85, I'm 88.
Which was crazy. So two of my brothers, Jason
is a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
And James and John and yourself are all millennials.
Correct.
Is James 81 or 82?
81. Literally
Yep.
right there at the beginning. Millennial parents tend to be more open-minded than any generation before them, Dr. Kelly says, and for that reason, they do not ascribe to overly specific parenting styles, but rather find value in positive parenting over authoritarian discipline. This might be due to the fact that millennials also have fewer children, which is 100% true.
Yeah.
My parents had 4. I'm good with 2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my brothers, on the other hand, they are being fruitful and multiplying. But my wife, her family, she's the youngest of 7.
Yep, I remember that.
So
youngest? She's a baby.
She's the baby, yeah. The youngest of 7. There's literally a 29-year difference between her and her oldest sibling.
That's
thinking about
wild.
it, bro. It's like you started making babies young, and you kept making babies until you couldn't make babies anymore.
Yep.
That's kind of a crazy thought. Now
that is a crazy thought. That's a gap, man.
Well, I also think its priorities have shifted too, because you had people that were doing their career, but part of their career was having a family. So
Correct.
It was
and grooming your next generation to potentially take over your business.
Absolutely. So it was always, I look at it now where you have people going, okay, I went to college, I got my career, I'm successful in my career, now I'm going to have kids.
Yeah.
And the average
Or I went to college, I'm in my career, I'm now successful in my career.
Yeah.
I'm now into my early 30s with a salary and things are great.
I don't want kids.
I don't want kids.
100%.
Yeah, which just ends up being
which is why the birth rate's so low.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and so I couldn't imagine, thinking my kid's 11. I had my kid when I was 24. David. Mm-hmm. My oldest is 11. So thinking about it, I was young. I was dumb. Mm-hmm. I'm happy I had him because he made me grow. Well, yeah. Well,
okay. I wanted to touch base.
I need the tissue now. Yeah. So, but having it then, it forced me to grow. It made me look at things differently. What kind of world am I leaving for my kid? What am I doing? And that changes your perspective on how you're going to operate, even how you're doing business. Mm-hmm. The efficacy of how you do things, the moral compass, it changes.
Everything, everything's more of an under a microscope.
But if you're 40 and you have no kids, what was your moral compass before to get to business? Just be the best. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes to be the best, that means you got to cut people down.
Correct.
And in the longevity of community, that is not always the most beneficial thing.
I agree.
So I can see, and we're starting to see now, even the concepts that we've had, the polarizing of toxic masculinity and feminism, and we're seeing the polarization, and we're seeing people in their 40s and 50s who don't have kids.
Yeah.
And they're going, I'm not happy. It's like, yeah. My kids bring me so much joy.
You're not being, and this is no knock to
no
individuals without kids, but
no, for sure.
And there's, excuse me, there's I can't remember who was talking about it, but they were discussing and maybe this does sound like it's talking smack against somebody.
You're so mean.
There's a certain level of growing up that you experience when your life is no longer about yourself.
Yep.
Period. And there's no better way to put that. And here you go. This can be a knock to people with kids that fail to, allocate time and prioritize their children. If having children is great for you in that your life is no longer about yourself, good, because your life shouldn't be about yourself.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. It should be a life in the service of others, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Going out, loving on people. But when you have children, it shows that when your life is no longer about yourself, you are more fulfilled. Like when I get home from work, my kids oftentimes will hear my truck pulling into the driveway.
Yeah.
And by the time I get off the phone with a client, and I'll tell this to clients, like as I'm turning down Eureka and on to Drummond Drive, I'll usually say, hey, just so you know, as soon as I pull up in front of my house, I'm going to have to go, and I'll shoot you a text a little bit later when the kids are down.
Sure.
And then I'll say they're literally in the garage right now, and they're going to be staring. And most clients are like, oh, my God, that's so sweet. Okay, chat later. I've never had anybody be like, oh, we're having this conversation right now. I'd be like, all right, man, call anyone else. Sorry.
Bye,
I'm not going to prioritize
that
over my family.
100%.
And when you're rolling up, and when I roll up myself, as I'm rolling up and I see them in the garage, and Hannah's right there holding Bodie, and Maddie and Beckham are like eager to run up and greet me. There is nothing else in my life that is remotely as good as that.
100%.
Period.
Yeah.
And I would have never known that kind of peace and love and satisfaction that I do, A, when I get home, but B, when I know that I'm working to support them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But had I never had kids, I'm sure I would have been successful, but as fulfilled, I don't believe so.
Sure.
And would I have mentally, relationally, spiritually grown up as much?
No.
I don't believe so.
No. Well, I think it's interesting too when you start paralleling just the concept of our civic duties in this. And I'm not going to go super deep on it, but I think it's interesting when you start talking to people like, oh, well, we need to take care of our environment because it's going to crap. Well, why would you take care of the environment when you're just using it for you? Well, I'm just using it for me. I don't care whatever you do. I'm gonna. Yeah, it's totally fun. I've even read comments on some of our videos where people were like, I'm happy I never had kids because I don't ever would be responsible for anything but myself. And it's like, cool, man. Happy you lived your life the way you want.
Yeah.
But if that's the mindset, then guess what? You don't care about how clean the water is. You don't care about the police in the neighborhood. You don't care about any tax laws or businesses. You don't care for business closed. Why do you care? You can just go on Amazon. And it becomes so funneled where you only care about yourself that all of our society starts to disintegrate because you don't care. And guess what? I don't expect you to care in any way, but you cannot complain. And this is where it gets interesting. People without kids will complain that nothing's being changed when they have the most time to make that change, but they're unwilling to put the change towards it because yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Right?
I get that.
I don't know any parent that isn't busy all the time, and it's normally not about them. They're going to the store to get something for their kids. Hey,
soccer, jiu-jitsu, snacks, basketball practice.
And then you're like, sweet, cool, dinner. Okay, dinner's done. You're finally sitting home. You look at your wife. You're like, I love you. Phone out. Time to I
love you. Love you. Good to see you. How was your day? It's good. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that is, you're aware of everything that's going on. And as much as it's about them, that also makes you, if something's going on to somebody else's kids, you're like, no, that's not okay. It gives you a pulse. You're able to kind of go, oh, so I love it.
It truly makes us better people. Yeah. Right. Last night
it forces us. It forces us.
It forces and forges you to be a better person. Last night at Beckham's soccer practice, Hannah, while just watching soccer practice, she started to like stand up and look kind of like puzzled, like something was missing or something was wrong.
Sure.
And I was like, babe. And she was just like, focused, like, babe, what's the matter?
Yeah.
And she was like, where's the little boy on Beckham's team in the green shirt? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, yeah, there was a little kid out there in a green shirt. And we're at the park, and they're in the middle of soccer practice, and there's 10 other soccer practices going on. And Hannah, as a mother, like the motherly intuition of something may be wrong.
She snapped in. Yeah, she snapped in.
Yeah. And lo and behold, the kid was behind like a grove of trees with his parents that Hannah didn't see, and then eventually he ran back out there. But I was like, whoo, Eddie's there. But if Hannah was not a mother, she would have never had the situational awareness of, hey, it's like a mother goose and the little the little ducklings. You're going to have like this shepherd's heart for not only your kids but others. AKA your children, making you a better societal contributor.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, I mean,
that's just how that goes.
Well, it's also, like as a parent, the best and worst sound you can ever have is silence. You want quiet. Yeah. You don't want quiet.
You're like, too quiet. What's wrong?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's that thing. So, yeah. So with millennials, I agree. Let me read a little bit more here. Social media and the internet influences them as parents and help them learn about parenting in various styles. They may have been children of Gen Xers and used to the helicopter parenting style, so they are looking to have more free and looser approach than they were raised with. Millennials also may have been overscheduled, so they try not to do the same with their kids. I disagree with that. I like a good schedule with my kids. I also I schedule my time accordingly. I agree that there may be a looser approach, but it's not really. I'm just as, it's weird because there are standards that I want, but I want the best for them. So I'll tell you an example the other day. So David has a little bit of a speech issue. We just found out it's because his teeth are pushed back. So his tongue can't.
Has a hard time doing the.
Has
got it.
L's and T's.
Got it.
It just has a hard time with it. So he's sitting there and he's having a hard time with spelling because he's trying to say it and he can't hear it the way he's saying it.
I get it.
And we've taken him to speech. He's done the stuff. They're like, he's doing great. He needs to keep doing this. And when we found out it was his teeth, we're like, oh, we got to get you braces.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So on the journey for that. But there, I'm at home and he's trying to do everything else he's getting good grades in, and then spelling, he's not getting good grades.
He can't hear himself say the word, so he's having a hard time putting together those letters. That makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm nothing but empathetic towards it.
It's a mechanical issue.
So so back in the day, it was, if you don't get straight A's, like, that's the goal. You're getting good grades, right? And I understand that, and I appreciate that, and I want excellence, but I'm not going to push you past capacity.
Yeah.
So I sat down with him, and I went, hey, come here. And he goes, yeah, and he's crying. He's like, I can't do this. I said, hey, you can do anything. Hey, can you do anything you put your mind to? Yeah. I said, all right, who's in charge? Are you in charge, or is your mind in charge? I'm in charge. Okay, take a deep breath. Centered him down. Okay, look, I said, I want you to do better than you did before. That's all I want. So if you're getting, let's say, out of 100%, I don't believe in 100% being an A and a 50% being a failing grade. If you did a 10% on a spelling test and now you're doing a 20%, you did it.
Yeah.
And the next time you do 20% to a 30%, you did it. And we're going to just...
Progress over perfection.
We're just going to get to it.
Yeah.
He's like, but I'm not getting an A. Not asking you to. I'm asking you to do your best. If you think getting an A is your best...
Correct.
Then I have done a disservice to you because I said I want excellence, but I don't want you to sacrifice your sanity in the process, right? So I had this really grown-up conversation with him, and he was like, okay. And then we got him some, again, textures, smells. So we got him some, like, foam bubbles and some sight words. So now he spells with these foam bubbles before he writes them. And he loves it. He's like, this is so cool. And so kind of trying to help him, like, figure those things out. But that's how I look at parenting. That's how I look at a lot of things. We always compare ourselves to 100% capacity. Well, a parent with one kid cannot understand what it's like to have 3 kids. But if it's a single parent to a double parent and they have one kid, that's an entirely different dynamic.
Yes, it is.
Right? And then if it's a single man with his child, that's a different dynamic than if it's a single mother with their child. It's too complicated. So allow me just to say, give yourself a break. You're doing the best you can with what you've got. Yes, 100%. You can do better, but everybody can do better. Don't look at the 100%. Don't look at that person on TikTok or that person on Facebook. Oh, their life is perfect. No. And that's something as millennials we do. It literally says in here, we look at social media and we see how it influences us. We're looking at 100%. Don't try and be 100%. If you were 15% yesterday, try and be 16% today.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's how we make actual gains.
Progress over perfection. That's what it is. As long as you are doing your best at whatever capacity you can.
Correct.
But quick shout out, man, Hannah and I were talking about this as soon as we had Maddie. And then going from 1 kid to 2, it's wild.
Yeah.
2 to 3 is a whole different story. But I remember when we had Maddie, there was 2 of us, obviously Hannah and I, and then Beckham and Maddie. So you always have the opportunity of
1-on-1.
1 to 1. The ratio is still there, right? 2 to 1, not half bad. But shout out to the single parents out there.
Oh my gosh!
Because oh my gosh, and multiple times, truly, multiple times, Hannah and I would have a conversation, and we dealing. I don't want to say dealing with, but let's say she's changing a diaper and I'm trying to bathe Maddie.
You're both busy.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Both busy, 1 with 1. And then later on the evening, I'm like, can you imagine a single mother having a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and trying to do everything? And we look at each other exhausted from our days and what we both individually had to do.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Mad respect to the single moms and single dads out there doing it. I commend you.
Oh, dude.
You're doing great. Hang in there.
All right. Gen Z, 1997 to 2013.
1997. Got it.
So Gen Z parents,
Youngins.
yeah,
Them youngins.
my gosh, yeah, it makes me feel old. Gen Z parents aspire to be perfect.
Hold on,
Says-
should these people be parents? It's 2024. Yeah, I guess so.
Well,
Like,
to
like
20.
97.
Well, Gen Z is 2013, so don't think 2013 to 2024.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, they're not.
Got it.
There's not.
So
hopefully, there's no 11-year-olds that are parents.
Ugh. But it started in 97. Right?
97, yeah.
So if you had kids in 2000, yeah, okay, got it. Understood.
So says Gen Z parents aspire to be perfect, says Schiff, but therefore also feel less confident about their parenting in comparison to millennial moms. I love it. It says millennial moms.
Just millennial.
Just moms. Younger parents, those of Gen Z, grew up in the age of social media, where every move one makes is criticized and everything is recorded and shared. She explains they are placing pressure on themselves because of the environment they grew up in, and part of that is social comparison to other parents.
Yeah.
Perfect lives portrayed on social media.
Yep.
Oh no, no, that's exactly it.
Fake grass.
Yeah, no, it's that's the hardest thing. Like I that's the hardest thing I see for most of like my kids. I keep them as unplugged,
As you should.
and it's like there's
Social-
so much
social media.
information. There's so much information they can have. If my son, so let's just say David is doing a book report.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what a word means. And I did this the other day. He's like, Dad, what's this word mean? I said, Siri, what's this word mean? Boop. Okay. No, that's not the right definition.
Yeah.
Here you go, man. Oh. And I read it to him. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dad. And then he would go and continue his homework. All I did was look for it, protect him from whatever else may show up. Go, cool. Read it.
The parental sifting.
Yeah, and I think that needs to be how we change things, because I don't want my son to think that technology is bad,
No.
right? I also don't want him to be scared of it, but I also don't want him to lean on it.
Yeah.
I told, and we've even had conversations where I said, if we don't know, we'll look it up, because that's how it used to be. Instead of going to the library,
Encyclopedia.
you now have your library on your phone. You have all the information you need there. But we still go to the library and get books, because reading, it's a different type of, I've noticed when they read books, they relax easier than when they're on devices.
Oh, couldn't agree more.
Right? And the energy, I genuinely believe it's someone was talking about the brightness levels. Like when something's brighter, you're attracted to it and you can't like turn it down, but your brain isn't able to stabilize.
Stay away from the light.
I can't help it, it's too beautiful.
Ah! No. Bug's Life?
Yeah.
Something like that.
So that's a whole, but that honestly, if you're a Gen Zer and you're hearing this, you are doing great. Like, I'm not the best dad. I'm not going to pretend to be. I make plenty of mistakes, and you know what? You don't get to hear the inner monologue that I have with myself all the time of second guessing myself. Did I do that right? Was I a little too hard on him? Did I do this the right way? Should I have said it that way? You know, is that what I want my kid to feel like? And like you said, you're a thinker. When you're a thinker, you can't shut the thing off.
Yeah.
And because of that, you start second guessing everything.
Correct.
And if you're comparing all of your second guessings to social media, that's a perfect storm of doubt and disbelief in your own abilities
and pressure, because the second you see somebody doing it on social media and they make it look easy and you're not experiencing something easy, it's instantly your negative self-talk of,
oh yeah,
you're doing it wrong. Come on.
You know what I'd be
Come on,
curious
Cam.
about?
Come on, Cam.
I would actually be curious if there was CPS reporting has increased.
I would imagine so.
Because like if everybody is second guessing everybody else and we're all calling each other on the carpet, because before it was, hey, oh yeah, I saw something weird, and you're looking in the phone book, you're calling it up, or even you're like, that's odd. Now it's, oh, that photo, I don't like what I see in that. Send. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Everything's audited more
Rapid.
more rapidly. It's our access to information is obviously
Katrolololed.
I almost said tripled.
Katrolololed.
I wasn't overthinking for a second.
You know what? I'm so excited for you. Katrolololed.
Quadrupled.
Quadrupled?
Tripled? One of those. I made it quadrupled.
So
Anyway.
I want to end it with a parenting tip. So what is something that you do that is different? I've read some parenting books.
Got it.
But I like them. But a parenting book, again, is a perspective.
Yeah.
Adapt that perspective to you.
Yep.
But what is one that you?
And I've mentioned it multiple times in the show before. I start I start every morning before my feet hit the ground. I crawl into a kind of a on my knees, head down position, and I pray loud enough for Beckham. And Beck is 5, and for the last couple months now, he's just been going to bed in our bed, and we're not quick to get him out of our bed because one day he's going to be like, gross. Why would I sleep between you guys? Never again, right?
Yeah.
So right now, Hannah and I are absolutely reveling in the fact that he looks forward to it.
You're like, all right.
And we allow it. So every morning when I, crawl into that position and I just kind of lay down and say, God, I give you today.
Sure.
Take me out of the pilot seat. I just want to be a passenger. Guide me today. Bless my clients. Allow my work to thrive. Continue to bless me in a capacity that I can continue to bless those around me. Bless my family, and then I just pray like a hedge of protection over Hannah and Beckham and Maddie and Bodie and our days. That is my tip, because that right there is centering myself.
Sure.
It's sacrificing my own want to control my day. Yeah. And the more you're trying to control the uncontrollables, the more stress you will have.
Oh, right? Yeah.
We both agree that?
Absolutely, man.
So yeah, my tip is getting yourself grounded.
Yeah.
And spiritually grounded, and having that spiritual, God foundation that you can show and allow your children to see, realize, and then like this morning when I was praying that prayer, when I said amen, I looked over and Maddie was just like right there smiling, like still kind of scratching my shoulder. And then Beckham was turned towards me with his eyes open. Yeah. So both my older two, my 3 and my 5-year-old, watched me start my day in prayer.
Absolutely. No, I think that's super, super important. What I would say, and I wish mine was more profound now. Now I feel like...
You're like, mine was cutting up half a banana into the Cheerios.
So what you do is...
Make sure it's 8 and 8 so they don't kill each
other. Food processors are great. What I would say with... And this is... I'm dealing with older boys and as they've grown, but I can tell you... I hear a lot of people talk about disciplining your child and how it's good. There's good ways and there's bad ways, of course. Don't... Fill a sock with batteries and beat your kid. That's bad.
Yeah, those were painful.
Are you my kid? Wait.
Grab the bucket. Grab the tissues.
We all got brothers.
Yeah. Older brothers.
No, so what I would say, though, what I noticed, something that I always wished that my parents did for me that I've done with my kids, and I go, oh, and I see the effect. That helps me is cause and effectality to your parenting. Okay?
Yeah.
If there is something you don't like, do not reward it. And if there's something that you like, reward it.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't have to go out of your way to say, you did so good in school today, we're going to go get something. No. Like, oh, okay. Well, I actually reward the things that they don't even know that they did.
That's cool.
So we'll be sitting there and be like, how was your day at school? Oh, it was really good. What happened? Well, so-and-so was having an issue with this. I was like, all right. Well, how did you resolve it? Well, I went over there and I just kind of helped him out and we just hung out and I, spent the day with him and took care of him. Okay. Awesome, man. That's really, really good. Yeah, that's great. I'm like, hey, man, you want to get some ice cream? Because of how they treated other people, right? Yeah. That nature. I want that to be incentive.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to disciplining something, I will tell them exactly why.
Yeah.
Well, why am I in trouble? Okay. Well, I'll tell you exactly why.
Let's have a conversation.
Right now. Let's sit down. Boom. You were asked not to do that and you did it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I really wanted to. Well, I want to do stuff all the time. I don't do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. That's just not how it works, right?
Yep.
Like, I think that the clarity of what you're doing makes a huge difference for the kids. And then it's consistency.
On the benefit and the reward and the reprimanding and getting in trouble. Yeah. It has to be clear.
Yes.
I think that's hugely important.
Very much.
If they don't understand why they're in trouble, that's awful. God, I mean, from an upbringing standpoint, they're just going to think that they're a terrible person.
I can count many times, and this was not, again, you only know so much about your parents. You only know how much their parents treated them, the trends.
So on and so forth.
There's plenty of times I look back and was like, I don't even know what I did.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. What did I do? You know what you did.
I'll be in my room thinking about it.
Yeah. Go to your room. Okay. Why are you drawing? You're in trouble. I don't know what I did. Like, I'm figuring it out. You know what you did. No. I think that's the same thing for any relationship, anything that you're having. Clarification is huge because it ends up giving, you're able to give somebody the positive information that's necessary. And also, don't be afraid to apologize to your kids.
I love that.
Never.
Oh, dude.
Never be afraid to apologize to your kids.
We could start a whole new podcast right there on feeling bad about something you did or how you punished them, or if you had a long day and you were short fused.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
There is no greater a weight than I went a little too.
I was a little bit too much.
Yeah, I was a little bit too much there for what was done didn't warrant the response.
Well, and
then you're like, my well was a little dry. I had a long day.
Oh my gosh,
like that, and then you go back to them later, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" You're like, "I got to get this off my chest."
No, it's honestly for your sake.
Dad, I moved on.
Yeah, Dad, that was 5 minutes ago.
Exactly.
I'm a 5-year-old. My attention span is 5 minutes.
Exactly. Squirrel.
Well, I think Bluey episodes are only 10 minutes, Dad.
Exactly. Yep.
I have enough for 2 spans. Mm-hmm. That's my whole day.
It's true.
No, it's more for your benefit. Because if I get that
hugely.
pit in my stomach and I'm like, oh man, I should
did
have.
it wrong.
Why did I do that? Because you're gonna live with that, and they're gonna be sleeping.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like,
but just to show, and we've spoken about this multiple times in the show.
Yeah.
When you apologize and or forgive someone for something, it's not for them; it's for you.
Oh,
so
100%.
You need to be able to get it off your chest.
Yep.
And it's good and it's favorable to do so. It's only gonna bring good things.
So if you're a parent, hopefully you got something out of this. If you're not, please, like, become a parent. It is the best thing you can do.
If you are of age, if you can fiscally,
if you're of age, Cameron's like just like 7-year-olds like, what's this? I'm gonna be a parent. Like no.
Where'd you learn that? The Cam and Joe Show.
Within reason.
This is how we get
But if you're like he was saying, if you're fiscally responsible, but even then, you're not going to become fiscally responsible till you have a kid. It's going to force you to have to stretch yourself.
If you can't feed them, don't breed them.
If you can't feed them, don't breed them.
You've heard that, right?
I have heard that. The redneck voice is perfect.
It had to happen.
It just is amazing. No, but if you're on the fence and you've been thinking about it and you're like, I just don't know if I'm ready for that type of responsibility, and you're comparing having a kid to a dog or a cat, because I've heard that comparison. I get people who don't have kids have their fur babies. That's super cool. But if you're in that spot, it will grow you. Yeah. It will make you, it'll forge you. And in the end, you'll be better for it. I don't think I've talked to a person who has kids that didn't said, that was the best thing I've ever done.
Absolutely.
Especially if they were, in the party scene or they were doing crazy stuff. And then then I got a kid.
Grew them up.
And then I was like, man, I need to totally take care of my kid.
Yeah.
It forces you. It makes you. It forces you to ask questions that you yourself don't want to ask, you're unwilling to ask, or you don't even know to ask. And then all of a sudden, you're in that spot. So if you're hearing this, you're incredible. We appreciate you. Keep going on the parenting front. And if you're not sure about it, no time will everything be perfect to have kids.
Yeah.
No time will everything be ready to have kids, but it will force you to reanalyze things.
Yeah.
And let us know on the generations thing if that felt like it was true. Some of the millennial stuff makes sense, but also with the brother span, there's 2 generations in that. Plus, my parents kind of hit 2 generations. Yeah. I kind of feel an oddity of kind of like Gen X. Sometimes.
Yeah. And it's not finite by any means. You're gonna tiptoe into a little one or a little other, and your parents, their upbringing is gonna tiptoe into one or another. But we're all. All we can do is our best, right? And all we can hope is that our parents did their best, and all we can hope is that their parents did their best,
exactly.
Right? And if at the end of the day we're all looking to do our best as parents with our children, and if you need help, watch Bluey, and be more like Chili and Bandit. Signing off.
I got nothing else to say on that one.
Shout out to Bluey.
Cut. Thank you for checking out the Cam and Joe Show.
If you guys are liking our content so far, you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also listen to us on Spotify.